Hi, I'm Sarah Chin. This is the story of how I learned that sometimes, the people closest to you, your family, can become your biggest obstacles, especially in business. For a decade, I poured everything I had into our family's small tech company, turning it from a struggling startup into a $50 million business. But as they say, success can breed envy, even among those who should be celebrating your victories. I'll never forget the beginning, the days when our family business was just a small computer repair shop in a strip mall. Dad started it 20 years ago, and while it was his pride and joy, it barely kept us afloat. My sister Emma, the golden child, was always Dad's favorite, straight-A student, Ivy League business school. I was the quiet one, the one who stayed behind to help Dad while juggling my computer science degree at a local college. "Sarah, you're wasting your potential," Emma would tell me whenever she came home from college. "You could be doing so much more." But I saw something others didn't. I saw potential in that little shop. While Emma was learning business theories, I was getting hands-on experience in coding and spotting opportunities. In my final year of college, I developed our first proprietary software, nothing groundbreaking, but a tool that helped small businesses manage their inventory. It was simple, effective, and affordable. Dad was skeptical, but when local businesses started buying it, his tune began to change. "Maybe you've got something here, kiddo," he said, finally showing a flicker of pride in my work. Those words meant the world to me. Back then, if only I had known how short-lived that approval would be. The business grew steadily under my leadership. I worked 14-hour days, 7 days a week. Meanwhile, Emma was climbing the corporate ladder at a prestigious consulting firm in New York. I was building something real. The repair shop morphed into a software development company, and we began servicing not just local businesses, but national corporations. Mom watched it all quietly, her concern evident. "Don't burn yourself out, Sarah," she'd say, bringing me dinner at the office. "You need to find balance." But I was driven, maybe even fueled by the desire to prove myself to my family. 5 years into our transformation, we hit our first $1 million in annual revenue. That's when Emma suddenly took an interest in the family business again. She quit her high-powered job in New York and came home. "I think it's time I take my rightful place here," she declared at a family dinner. "With my business acumen, we could really push this company to the next level." Dad lit up at her words. "That's great, princess. We could really use your professional touch." I sat there, my fork frozen in midair, trying to comprehend what was happening. The company I had poured my heart into was now being handed to Emma. But I kept my objections to myself and played the part of the supportive sister. She was appointed co-CEO, despite having no experience in our field. Dad said it would be good for the company's image to have someone with her credentials in charge. I took charge of product development and operations, while Emma handled marketing and investor relations. The next 5 years were a study in contrast. I focused on creating new software and maintaining client relationships, while Emma built a glossy image for herself as the company's face. She gave interviews about being a woman in tech, accepted awards for entrepreneurship, all while taking credit for innovations I had created. Our revenue soared to $50 million, but so did the tension between us. Emma started excluding me from key meetings, making decisions behind my back, and slowly sidelining me in my own company. Then came Dad's 60th birthday party. It was Emma's idea. Naturally, she rented the grand ballroom at the city's most expensive hotel, turning it into more of a networking event than a family celebration. But that was Emma's style. Everything had to have a purpose. I arrived early to help with preparations, dressed simply in a black dress, only to be immediately criticized by Emma. "Couldn't you have put in more effort?" she snapped. "These are important people." I ignored her and focused on making sure everything was running smoothly. The room quickly filled with business partners, clients, and family friends. Emma worked the crowd like a seasoned politician, while I stayed in the background, handling logistics. During dinner, Emma clinked her glass and stood to make a speech. I expected the usual, a heartfelt tribute to Dad, maybe a few fond memories. Instead, she dropped a bombshell that would shatter everything. "As we celebrate Dad's 60th birthday," Emma began, her voice commanding attention, "I think it's time for some changes at Chin Technologies." My heart stopped. Changes? What changes? For too long, we've been held back by outdated thinking and resistance to change, she continued, her gaze settling on me. "And that's why, effective immediately, I will be taking over as the sole CEO. It's time for certain elements that no longer serve the company to step aside. The room erupted in whispers. I sat frozen, unable to process what was happening, as Emma continued to tear me down, cloaking her words in the guise of corporate strategy. Some people, she said, her voice oozing faux sympathy, are better suited to technical roles rather than leadership. And with those words, my sister shattered everything I had worked for. Sarah has done an adequate job maintaining our legacy systems, but to compete in today's market, we need vision, we need excellence, and frankly, Sarah, you're not cut out for this level of business. I glanced at Dad, hoping, praying he would stand up for me, but to my shock, he nodded in agreement with Emma's words, a proud smile on his face. Mom, sitting quietly beside him, stared down at her plate, her hands trembling just slightly. The truth is, Emma continued, her voice gaining confidence, you've become a liability. Sarah, your outdated ideas and lack of real business education have held this company back. It's time for you to step aside. The silence that followed was deafening. The room was filled with hundreds of eyes, all waiting for my response. I could feel the judgment, the pity, the disdain. Everything I had sacrificed, everything I had built, was being stripped away in front of them. I rose slowly, the scrape of my chair against the floor sounding like a gunshot in the silence. Everyone expected drama, maybe tears, a confrontation, but instead, I walked over to Dad's table, gently placed a small wrapped package in front of him, and spoke softly. "Happy birthday, Dad," I said, my voice steady. Then, without another word, I turned and walked out of the ballroom. My head was held high, ignoring the whispers and the shocked stares that followed. That night, in my home office, surrounded by patents and awards that had my name on them, I made a decision. Emma thought she had won, but she had overlooked one crucial thing, one detail that would turn her moment of triumph into the biggest mistake of her life. As I powered up my laptop and began typing, a small smile curved my lips. Tomorrow would be interesting, because there's more than one way to run a successful business, and in the 10 years I'd spent building this company, I'd learned far more than Emma ever would in all her MBA programs. The following morning, as dawn broke clear and bright, I arrived at the office before anyone else. I waited quietly in the conference room. At exactly 9 a.m., Emma strode in, Dad beside her, both wearing smug, triumphant smiles that were about to vanish. "Sarah," Emma's voice was a mix of surprise and annoyance. "What are you doing here? I thought you'd have the decency to stay home after last night." I smiled to myself, remembering the email I had sent at 3 a.m. to every major client, partner, and employee of Chen Technologies. "Just tying up some loose ends, sister," I said, "but since you're here, I think we should talk about the company's future." "There's nothing to discuss," Dad interjected firmly. "Emma's in charge now. The board has already approved it." "Yes, the board," I said, pulling out my tablet and connecting it to the conference room's main screen. "Let's talk about that." While Emma was busy planning parties and giving interviews, I was actually running this company, and there are a few things you both seem to have forgotten. I pulled up a document that filled the screen. "Let me remind you," I said, "that I own 51% of Chen Technologies shares. When we incorporated, Dad gave Emma and me equal shares of 25% each and kept 50% for himself. But 3 years ago, when we needed funding, Dad sold me 6% of his shares. Do you remember that day, Dad? You were so busy attending Emma's award ceremony, you signed the paperwork without reading it." Both Dad and Emma went pale. Emma's hands, so perfectly manicured, gripped the edge of the conference table. "That's impossible," Emma whispered. "Dad would never." I wasn't finished. I pulled up more documents. "And that's not all. The software that generates 80% of our revenue." I paused, glancing at my watch. "It's not even owned by Chen Technologies. It's owned by my separate company, Innovate Solutions LLC. Chen Technologies only has a licensing agreement for it, and that agreement expires, well, about 10 minutes ago." Dad slumped into his chair, realization dawning. "The renewal papers, the ones you asked me to sign last week, the ones I didn't read because I was too busy with Emma's party." "Exactly," I said, with a touch of satisfaction. Emma's face contorted with rage. "You conniving little." "Careful, sister," I cut her off. "You might want to hear the rest before you finished that sentence. While you were busy making me look bad last night, I was sending out emails to our clients, Most of our top clients have personal loyalty clauses in their contracts, clauses tied to me and my track record. Last night, I let them know about the changes at Chin Technologies, and about my departure. I pulled up my email inbox, showing dozens of responses already in. Would you like to know how many clients have already triggered their contract termination clauses, or how many of our top developers, who, by the way, are employed by Innovate Solutions, have already signed on with my new venture? The room was silent. Through the glass walls, I could see employees gathering outside, checking their emails. Emma's perfect composure shattered as she frantically checked her phone. "You can't do this," she stammered. "You're trying to ruin the company I'm taking over." I finished for her. "The company you thought you could just waltz into because you have an MBA and Dad's approval? That company ceased to exist the moment you humiliated me in front of everyone last night." I stood up, smoothing my dress. "So here's your choice. Option 1. I walk away with my shares, my software, my clients, and my employees. Chin Technologies becomes an empty shell, and you explain to all those important people you invited last night why the company's value just dropped to zero overnight." Dad's face had aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. "And option 2? He asked, his voice weak. I met his gaze, my own voice steady. "Option 2, you both resign. I take full control of Chin Technologies. You'll keep your shares as silent partners, receiving dividends, but with no say in the company's operations. Emma gets a nice severance package, along with glowing references for her next job, somewhere far from here." Emma's face had turned an impressive shade of red. "You planned this all along, didn't you? You've just been waiting for the perfect moment to stab us in the back." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "No, Emma," I replied coolly. "I spent 10 years trying to be a good daughter and sister, while you both took me for granted. I built this company from the ground up while you collected accolades for work I did. I only planned this." I checked my watch again. "About 12 hours ago, after you called me worthless in front of everyone we know." Just then, my phone buzzed, another client termination notice. "Time's running out. What's it going to be?" I asked, the pressure mounting. The next hour passed in a blur of paperwork and legal discussions. By noon, I was sitting alone in what was now my office, looking out at the sprawling city below. The company I'd built was finally mine, but the victory felt hollow. My family, the people I had trusted most, had become strangers in the wake of it all. The trust between us had shattered like glass. That evening, Mom came to see me. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying for hours. "Did it have to end this way?" she asked, her voice thick with sorrow. "They gave me no choice," I replied, my voice soft yet firm. "They would have taken everything I built and discarded me without a second thought." She nodded slowly, her gaze filled with understanding and sadness. "What happens now?" she asked. I showed her the plans I'd already been working on, expansions, new product lines, innovations I had been holding back for the right time. "Now, I build something even bigger," I said, "but this time, I do it without carrying people who see me as worthless." In the year that followed, under my sole leadership, Chin Technologies tripled in value. Emma landed a job at a startup in Silicon Valley, humbled, but hopefully wiser. Dad retired, finally realizing that his golden child had nearly destroyed his own legacy. These days, we see each other on holidays, maintaining a polite distance, though the wounds run deep and may never fully heal. Sometimes, late at night, I look at old family photos and feel a pang of sadness for what we lost. But then I remember that night at the birthday party, the disdain on Emma's face, the way Dad nodded along with her cruel words. In both business and family, respect must be earned. They learned that lesson too late. As for me, I learned that sometimes the quiet ones, the ones everyone dismisses as worthless, are the ones you should watch out for. We're the ones who know how to build something from nothing and take it all back when others try to steal it. My story spread through business circles as a cautionary tale about underestimating the wrong person. Now, when I attend industry events, I can often hear whispers. "That's Sarah Chen, the one who..." They never finish the sentence, but they don't have to. My success speaks for itself. Just last week, I received an invitation to speak at Emma's business school graduation ceremony. The topic, Hidden Strengths, the Power of Underestimated Leaders. I accepted the invitation with a small smile, already planning my speech. After all, I have quite a story to tell. Chen Technologies continues to thrive under my leadership, but more importantly, I've found peace with my decisions. Sometimes, the strongest message you can send is simply proving people wrong, and sometimes, the best revenge isn't about destroying others, it's about rising so high that they can't ignore their own mistakes. As I write this from my office, overlooking the city, I'm reminded of something my mother once told me. Success is the best revenge, but wisdom is knowing when to stop seeking revenge and start seeking growth. She was right. I've moved beyond the need for revenge. These days, I focus on building something meaningful, something that will outlast all the petty jealousies and family dramas. I still keep that wrapped birthday present I never gave Dad, a photo album documenting the company's journey, from the tiny repair shop to what it has become today. Maybe, one day, when the wounds have healed enough, I'll finally give it to him. Until then, it serves as a reminder that our greatest strengths often come from the very things others underestimate about us.